You are listening to the Growing Small Town Show, a podcast dedicated to supporting you, the person who really cares about the future of your small town. We believe when people get better, everything gets better, and our episodes offer the ideas and actions that prioritize people and small communities. Thank you for listening. We're so glad you're here. Our guest on today's episode is Ashley Geigle. She is the Economic Development Director for Murdo Economic Development Authority in Murdo, South Dakota. And Ashley and I finally just met earlier this year, and I was super excited to bring her on. She made the trek all the way up here to visit us in Oaks and see our facility. And there's a lot that we can learn, again, from people doing economic development in other communities that are either similar sized or smaller sometimes. And maybe in this case, Murdo is only just under 500 people. And Ashley kind of walks us through her journey of how she found herself in economic development, and hint, hint, she didn't have 15, 20, 30 years of experience in it, which I think is, again, a bit of a trend we're highlighting, is what does the future of this work look like? The future of this work looks like Ashley Geigle. And so enjoy this conversation with her. She is a delight. She is humble, and she is doing great work for her community, just like you. Enjoy. Hey, Ashley, welcome to the show, friend.
I am so excited.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm excited to have you. So you recently made the trek up from Murdo, South Dakota to visit me here in Oaks, and it was so fantastic to have you like on Main Street, hanging out in our space. And we had some really cool conversations. I was very excited to get to invite you to chat about economic development.
Yeah, it was honestly, it's gonna sound funny, but a dream come true. You've been in my world since the very beginning of starting this position. And then we only met in person, 3 months prior to that. And then
Yeah, right.
like come and see your studio that I've been dreaming of since 4 or 5 years ago. So
Well, this certainly, I don't just bring people on here that like think I'm awesome. Like that's not what I do. Because I think you're awesome. I think you have, I think of all the different types of people that get to come on the show, or, that I want to have represented on the show. And the truth is, like, if I can have a good, organic, meaningful, juicy conversation with you, you probably could come on the show. Right. And we'll talk about something. So it isn't meant to be like, we just talk to a bunch of economic developers, because I technically don't even do that anymore. Right. But I do think that you bring an interesting perspective to the work. You have, and again, I just think everybody can learn something from people like you doing the work. So why don't you tell us the story of your work? Like, we'll just kind of start there. Tell us about Murdo. Tell us about the community. Tell us about when you took the position, what kind of circumstances or what the situation was like that you were coming into. And then we'll just take it from there. We'll get into what you've been learning and what you've been doing and all the good stuff.
okay. So basically back I graduated from Murdo here, high school here, grew up here, and then attended SDSU, South Dakota State, which we have a big rivalry this weekend. I don't know if you know this, a rivalry football game.
I did know this. Yes.
Go Rabbits. Just
I
kidding.
know. You can, it's fine. I mad respect for school pride.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So attended SDSU for hotel and hospitality management, knowing that I was likely going to return home. I didn't know what I was going to do for sure, but Murdo is right along Interstate 90 and has hotels and restaurants. And I basically grew up working in a restaurant. Every restaurant I think I worked at in Murdo throughout my high school career. So I was like, that was kind of in the background, but I didn't really know for sure. Took a year, my second year I spent in Hawaii.
Well,
So
this is new information.
I was like, I can't remember who I always tell this to.
You hadn't told
So,
me, so I'm excited. Tell me all about it. What a
right.
dream.
Right. So, Hawaii has reciprocity with South Dakota. So, I mean, in all honesty, I think it has to do with tuition, right? And there was not a whole lot of credits that were obtained in Hawaii, but I got to live life to the fullest.
Mm-hmm.
And just really kind of experience life outside of South Dakota and just gain like a new perspective of a, almost like a different culture, a different world. Like, yes, Hawaii is part of the United States, but at the same time, like their culture is very strong there. So we went to the University of Hawaii at Manoa, me and my college roommate, and which is on Oahu. So we spent 90% of our days on the beach and just had a really great time, right? So did that for a year and came back. And when I had came back that summer, I met my husband who it was a lineman for the electric co-op. And that's when I really knew that, yeah, I was returning to Murdo. I did want to finish out this degree with hotel and hospitality management. Got that wrapped up, came home, got married, and literally took the first job that was open, which was working at the school district. Enjoyed that for a little bit. Started having babies right away.
Yeah.
And then it was just kind of one of those things where I was just job hopping, part-time opportunities along the way throughout the community because
Mhm.
nothing really fit. And then I was actually at the 4-H office as the assistant at the time. And a gal came in and was like, I think this position in the newspaper, economic development, sounds like something that you would be really good at. And I was like, I don't even know what that is. And she's like, neither do I. But, the city's wanting to do it. So let's just see what it's about. So I went and applied. And that was in 2020. And so right at like December of 2020, I was hired for the position part-time, 20 hours a week, with the understanding we're just going to kind of see what this looks like. And fast forward, I mean, there, there's, I'm here. I
Right.
kind of started the position in the manner of one goal was to fill this 30-acre piece of land that doesn't really have the necessary infrastructure on it to get that filled with tenants. And 5 years later, it still looks exactly the way it started. So that's been a journey in itself, but we're starting progress in that area. So
Okay.
yeah.
So I'm going to pause you there and I have a few questions along
Okay.
the journey you just shared. One being, did you have a specific goal of what you imagined you would do with hotel and hospitality, like hotel management and hospitality?
Um, I honestly, my thought process was, yeah, I could tell you actually. It's kind of funny. There's a little building on Main Street that I was like, I would like to just have a little pop-up cafe where that serves the community, right? Like a little lunch, maybe early dinner be done type of deal, maybe breakfast. Just coffee shops weren't real cool at the time, but like now that would be the thing. And it just after I mean we had 4 kids in the span of 8 years.
Hmm.
So that quickly became not a reality. And then by the time, working all these part-time jobs throughout throughout that journey, um, it was definitely one of those things that I knew I wasn't ready to go back into work that much, and I wanted that freedom to be able to work with the kid or be able to go to kids events and be there whenever needed. So I kind of let that go. But on the flip side, my husband and I did buy that building last May. So, but not for a cafe.
Right. I know you have other ideas now, which we've
Yes.
talked about a little bit, but
Yeah, I know.
okay. So I think that's really interesting because what I will say, I didn't actually know that was your major. I don't think we ever talked about that. Um, Hospitality is a really beautiful background to have in kind of community and economic development. It's a very, very interesting lens to bring
Yeah.
to your work. I kind of love that actually, you know.
Right.
I just think that that industry of just because that's actually, that's what community development is too. It is hospitality. What does
Hmm.
it look like to host well? What does it look like to welcome people and do that well? There's probably a lot of your formal education that informs some of the way you think about those things. Well,
Right.
maybe I should say, instead of there's probably a lot, is there? Does that feel true for you? Like
Oh,
that you
100%.
you you think often about kind of that industry and how it overlaps with the work that you're doing now.
Yeah. I remember like the podcast where you first were like, I don't know if I'm economic development, like I'm a little bit more community development. And I was like, I feel that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and and I think that is it, right? Like we are even like looking at with the man, I am going all over. I apologize, but with like
No, you're good.
the Dakota Resources blueprint, we have these building blocks of success. And like we even talk about like what does it look like to put tourism in that building block for Murdo because of our location, halfway between the main points of South Dakota with the Black Hills on one side and Sioux Falls on the other. And like people just naturally stop here anyway, whether it's for gas, but like if we could take that extra step to say like, hey, come into the community, see what it's about, look at our main street, maybe there's an option for you here, like really looking and diving into that on with economic development. So
Right. Okay. No, you're not all over the place. It's great. So just for our listeners, how big is Murdo and about where is it situated in the state of South Dakota?
sure. So Murdo is population size 465-ish, right, according to the census, the last census.
Okay.
But like another thing that we really talk about is like with Jones County, Murdo is the county seat, but with Jones County, we only have a population of around 1,000. So we're like the smallest populated county in South Dakota.
Are you really? You're the
Mm-hmm.
smallest population? Because that's a really small county population.
Uh-huh. I like the smallest like land area is like up by North Dakota, up by you guys, but I don't know what for sure what county, but we are the smallest populated county, and so with all that like comes like some of its own issues, right? But
Mm-hmm.
we're smack dab. We're like 2.5 hours from Sioux Falls and 2 hours from Rapid City, so
Okay.
we
Right
are
in the middle of the state then.
right in the middle along
Yeah.
I.
Yeah.
So whenever I tell like I was just in Utah and I was telling some friends that yeah, our population is less than 500, but we have like six hotels, and they're like, "What?"
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. It is super interesting. And so you also just mentioned Dakota Resources. So
mhm.
certainly Paul has been on the show. Joe's been on the show. We've had, and I serve on their advisory council as of the recording of this podcast. Love Dakota Resources. We're going to
Yeah.
get into a little bit more. I know they played a huge role in just kind of supporting you as you were getting started. I don't, do they share their blueprint publicly?
I mean, I was
I'm asking you like in real time. I can also just find out if I'll just say this, if we're able to share the blueprint that you just referenced,
yeah.
we'll do that. I know it's one of their guiding documents, so I'm not sure if you have to like kind of be in the club to to get
Right.
access to that. I'm not sure. I can't recall if they share it publicly, but
Yeah.
um there's this whole model that and it's not original to them
Right.
either, and they credit the source, but basically it's giving you a way to kind of make sense of all the different pieces and parts of economic and community development, how those two things, what's kind of the difference, what needs to be built first,
Right.
and also there's flexibility, like you just said, is there a block that's not represented in this model that we need? And it sounds like for you tourism might have
Right.
been an element of that, which makes a ton of sense, because yeah, to have less than 500 people in six hotels is really weird. It would
Right.
be like weird if you didn't think about what you actually needed, why that was important. It's good to have a place to stop and actually stay in the middle of the state, because otherwise what are the choices, where are you going, and
Right.
all those things. I also think when I look at that model, the thing that I always want to add is like almost like a wraparound bubble of like culture
Mm.
and social cap, the kind of all the relationships, the networking,
Right.
because I think that's kind of the glue that holds all of those things together. So anyway, given all of that, so you get into it. Again, I think hospitality is a very cool background to bring into
Mhm.
economic development, but you're absolutely building this position.
Yes.
Had Murdo ever had an economic developer
Mm.
prior?
No. So we had an economic development group, the Murdo Development Corp, and it basically and I don't mean this in a negative connotation, right? But it was like five guys that five, yeah, five that met for lunch, and they had this revolving loan fund money from the USDA that they tried to do. They did what they had the capacity to do, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they were helping businesses out as needed. Um, and then as I was coming in, fortunately, we've gotten a little bit of work done that we did with Joe from Dakota Resources. We did a lot of governance work, kind of reframing what the Murdo Development Corp looks like. So, like, my position is I'm paid by the city. So I oversee the development corp. So there is like two separate entities. We're kind of working now as like I just associate with the Murdo Development Corp. But that being said, there's certain things with the city like I can't be a part of. Like financials is one of them because if there was anything that ever went bad between the development corp and the city, we need to have that protection, right? So like there's just different levels of what I can and cannot do. But yes, I started from the with the very beginning, and in my head, I was like, I just gotta call some people and get some people. Like, this ain't gonna be hard. Like, I could do this. There's no big deal. Um, and like that is a nervous giggle because it has been a whirlwind.
Of course it has. I
Right,
love that. That's honestly, I swear, like if you didn't have that lens, I'm not sure we'd be even, you wouldn't be sitting in
right,
this chair. The idea of just like, well, okay. I think honestly, more people need to have that attitude. I'm just going to say it publicly that, well, how hard can it be?
right.
Like, and I'm chuckling because, yeah. And even you're just like, oh, I had no idea. Oh,
No
sweet,
idea.
sweet, uncertain, naive me. Look at that. But
Right.
I think that's kind of
Um,
awesome.
yeah.
Like it.
It was so it's been a wonderful journey. Fortunately, okay, so I started off, we have like a theater, and there was nowhere for me to go, right? So the city was like, oh, we'll just put you in the lobby of this movie theater, which was great. Like it worked for the first month. Until I actually was like having, started having some of these private conversations with businesses, and people were just like, oh, it didn't work after that. So
Mhm.
we've graduated, and now I have a really beautiful office, and I'm very grateful that the city and the office owner have a great partnership that we can work that out. But we had it started, just kind of very basic and just kind of trying to get to know who I'm supposed to know. And with the area that we're in right here, like there's a lot of volunteer groups in the communities, but there's not that director position. So I
Mhm.
was like, I don't know who to talk to. And somebody was like, well, talk to Peer. Well, Peer is great. They're also dealing with a whole different realm of economic development than what I was anticipating or thinking about. I was like, how does 500, compare with what 13,000 I think is peer. So then I just kind of sat there stuck for a little bit and just calling whoever I could get a hold of. And then came Christy Wagner from Dakota Resources, and she just marches into my room. And if you've ever met Christy, she's just like all woohoo and jazz and excitement. So I learned about Dakota Resources and took it to the next city council meeting, and they were like, this isn't what we exactly had in mind. Like, is it really going to help you? And I was like, I don't know, but I have no guidance anywhere, so it can't hurt.
Yeah, right.
Um,
The idea,
and
it's so funny right now because of everything I know about them too. The idea that they wouldn't help you, it's just really
yeah,
kind of comical. But I get that at the time, that was it's a valid question.
right,
Like, what do you think is actually going to come from this? And you're like, honestly, I don't really know.
right.
But
Yeah.
good for you for
So,
advocating for yourself.
yeah. And we jumped in, and yes, Dakota Resources has been super instrumental in everything from like our community success to my personal success as economic development director. Like, just really honestly, I will say like you have to put in what no, that's not true. I was gonna say you have to put in what you want out of it. You can put in what you want out of it to grow bigger, faster, easier, smarter, smoother. I don't know what the right word is. Like Dakota Resources is always there to support any community that they're in, but I think I found more success personally because I dedicated the time and the hours to get on their Tuesday morning coffee chats and meet with other ED pros. I went to every event that they had. I still
Mhm.
have not missed an event. I think 90% sure on that. You know, in the coffee chat, Tuesday morning coffee chats are still like a must on my calendar because there's just so much growth and opportunity there, whether the conversation is really pertaining to you or not, there's a space in there for you to kind of contribute. So, yeah, Dakota Resources, really huge. Um, and then after 2 years of being a part of that, about a year and a half being part of that organization, we did a strategic planning session, which led to a governance training with Joe, which led to we now have an application for our revolving loan fund and a committee that actually analyzes that. And
That's
um,
those are big. These are,
yeah,
again, I think about the reason I love this is because it's one thing, Justin Neppl was on, he too had to build, right? He had to build, they hadn't ever done a 2 county like focus and all the stuff. But there's one thing to be said about like taking an economic development position that has somewhat of a plan for what it's supposed to look like. And then there's doing what you've done.
mhm,
And I think so again, this isn't just like a broad commercial for Dakota Resources, but I think it's for everybody listening to this, it's if they're not an option for you for whatever reason in your community, the question then becomes, what did they offer you? Like, what was it? So you put yourself in the way of every learning opportunity that membership afforded to you, which I think
mhm,
is huge. Like you said, you do get to take credit for that, Ashley, by the way, because a lot of people will just pay for a membership to something and they don't ever actually engage with the benefits. You clearly have. I think coffee chats and the idea of that's something that a person could actually develop or create within their own community or for themselves, because there's a loneliness and there's an isolation in this work. It is, and
mhm,
it's so hard, right? I mean, you're out, you're doing your little thing, you're thinking about your community all the time, thinking about how it could be made better. And like you said, it's like, I don't know, who am I supposed to reach out to? And
right,
just having even a couple of people, if you can't join Dakota Resources proper and you want this same kind of support, there's a lot of resources out there, but you just might have to piece it together differently.
right,
Where Dakota Resources kind of gives you this beautiful little platform that you get to do all of that with, which is
right,
fantastic. Yeah.
yeah.
The Growing Small Towns show is recorded locally at the Growing Small Towns podcast studio located in Oaks, North Dakota. It's produced by Pheasant Canteen Studio in Aberdeen, South Dakota, with marketing support from Cassidy Johnston in Canyon City, Colorado. Our intro music was created and produced exclusively for Growing Small Towns by James Bergman, singer and songwriter from Fargo, North Dakota. Local and small. It's what we support and it's who we love. Get your community a shout out on the podcast. Call 701-203-3337 and share your small town success that you just don't feel is being celebrated quite enough, and let us shout you out. You can also share your biggest people challenge, and we'll dedicate an episode to offering ideas to help. Hell, you can basically tell us anything, and we'll do what we can to answer. We can't wait to hear from you. Today's small town shout out is Stanberry, Missouri. We are actually going to air the Google voicemail that we were left by Terry Johnson, who is the former now president of Main Street in Stanberry. This is actually very bittersweet. She sent us this message back in June. I just got off the phone with her. She gave us permission to play it, and it is such a sweet message. Not only is she shouting out 3 Point Coffee we're going to ask you to look them up. We'll make sure we tag them. But you also just get to hear the love she has for the community. And since sending us that message back in June, they've since moved. They've left Stanberry. They called Stanberry home for 30 years. She has wonderful memories, wonderful things to share about it. They've moved to be closer to their grown children and their growing families. So a really bittersweet shout out today. But Terry, thank you so much for calling us. And this is also just a reminder that we really do listen to your calls. When you call us, if I think like, yep, we want to make sure that everybody hears it in its original form, I'll get your permission. We won't ever just post your voicemail without asking. But we really do want to hear from you. So Terry, thank you so much for sending us this note. And here is the shout out for Stanberry, Missouri.
Hi, my name is Terry Johnson. I'm the president of our Main Street in Stanberry, Missouri. Our population is a little over 1,100. We have a small coffee shop called 3 Point Coffee and Event Space. They do TikToks, all social media, but recently, in the last 2 weeks, they posted a TikTok video that within 24 hours had 1.5 million views, and now within 7 days they've reached over 7.5 million views. They have been featured on several TV stations and our local newspaper. It is really quite a story, and it's just really exploded here in our community and definitely has been a great, great situation for this small business. We're really proud of them and thought that you would want to know about that. If you have any questions, I'd love to visit with you or can put you in contact with the manager. And on a side note, the star of the TikTok show just happens to be my husband. It's a darling video, and he's been featured in several of them. And so you can see the actual video on TikTok or on any social media platform if you go to 3 Point Coffee and Event Space. Thank you so much for all you do. I really enjoy the podcast.
And that's just it. Like you said, you feel like you don't have that person to kind of go to. And it's so true because, I don't know, with our community, I really focus on like, yes, we can, right? Like, yes, we have roadblock after roadblock. We have lower funding. We have, all the obstacles. And so it gets to that point where you're like, am I just complaining to complain? But then like you get on those calls and it's literally people that are also going through the same thing. There's a disgruntled organization with what you're doing, and you're like, am I wrong? Am I right? Am I up? Am I down? And if they haven't been through it, like they will. And so like that conversation just kind of organically comes out with a solution, and it just is really, really great. I love my Tuesday morning coffee chats. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think, and that's, as people listen to this, I just want to encourage people like if that sounds awesome to you, there's a way to probably create a version of that for yourself, or again, just check out Dakota Resources and join them because it's really fun. It's always just it's uplifting. It's uplifting to learn and grow and have a place to share.
Yeah.
And receive, right? Because sometimes maybe you don't even say a whole lot on a coffee chat, like perhaps, right? I know there's no chance I'd be on a coffee chat and just like silently sit there because that's not, it's not how I engage with the world around me, Ashley. Exactly. But yeah. So, okay. So this is all so great. So what is one of the biggest things you feel like you've learned about yourself in this work?
Right. Loaded question.
It is a loaded question, but I think again, this, like obviously I care about community and economic development, but I care about the people that are in those positions. I care about leadership development and talent management in our communities. Like, what does it look like? What does it look like to be good humans to each other and work well together and all of those things. Right. So I really care about, obviously I care about you, but care about your journey, like what you've discovered. about
Right.
yourself through this work?
I think, there can be a lot of criticism in any public position that you're in, volunteer or paid, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's just a natural given. Um, but being able to have your moment, um, ha okay, for myself, I'll talk about I don't like talking about myself, but I'll try. Um, to have my moment and, really process and think about what could it be? How could it have looked different? Like, what could have I said or what could have I done that would have been different? Where could have I put in more effort? And then in the end, like just so analyzing all those things, but in the end, coming back out with like that sense of like renewed joy. Like, okay, so that didn't work. So now we gotta, cycle back and like these are the steps that we're gonna take now to try to, tackle that task or complete that project or whatever it might look like. There, topics for a whole completely different podcast, would be like the growth in myself from, even 10 years ago till today. And just realizing like it's okay to when someone gives you a compliment, even to be like, put your hands over your heart and really receive that compliment and be like, thank you. Like I worked really hard on that. And I didn't do it alone, but at the same time, like, recognizing that you are maybe the root of why that accomplishment happened. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, being able to stand firmly in and graciously receive a compliment is not something that
yeah.
people are usually very naturally inclined to do. And I still even now find myself wanting to like kind of push, like not necessarily push back, but kind of just gloss over it. And I think this happens a lot with females.
Mhm.
I think, again, I don't want to gender it. It doesn't have to be a gendered topic, but I think it's also Midwest culture.
Right.
There's this like humility and modesty. But it's also, again, I'm always like, if we can't get people to understand that there's an empowerment that happens when you do that, then I'll guilt trip them by saying, like, it's actually almost treating that person like they're not a good judge of character.
Mhm.
I mean, if somebody
Right.
gives you like a genuine compliment about something that you've done and they are appreciating something and you just kind of like
Right.
bypass it, it's actually very disrespectful to the person who took the time. So that's something to keep in your mind too, that,
Right.
being able to accept that. But I think too, like you just said, you do almost none of the work entirely alone, but you might be like the linchpin in the whole
Right.
thing, right? Like you might be the integral factor of person that's convening everybody or even hosting all the meetings or project managing a project. Like
Right.
there is real value to that. And I think it's awesome that anybody would even notice it, because sometimes
Right.
I think that's the work that I think a lot of times goes really unseen, is kind of the organizing, facilitating, convening aspects of community development work.
Right. Well, yeah, and it just makes me think of like last night we had a work night. So we have two governors' homes and we were laying pavers down um for one of the homes, like a sidewalk style pavers. And I mean, I was there, I had my gloves on, but I really didn't do a heck of a lot of the work. I was just kind of helped out when I could or whatever. And there's our board of four other males that are, down in the dirt and moving the ground to make sure that things are level and doing all the things. And one of the board members stands up and when we were all done and he puts his arm around me, he's like, "You did this." And I was like, "No, I didn't." Like, you guys were just the ones sweating. I was just wearing the gloves. But in it's one of those things that I had to stop for a second and I was like, thank you. But like really, we have a really great team that's working on a really difficult project. So it's definitely one of those things that is so rewarding. But at the same time, I'm always like I feel like I have to constantly remind people too, like, no, this is not just a me thing. Like, this is a whole group effort. Like, and there was extra volunteers last night that were helping out. You know what I mean? It's just one of those that
Right.
it's not a
Right.
me or a development corp. It is a community projects that we've all been working on. So,
What has been for you the hardest thing to
mm,
either accept or deal with in this position?
I would also say the criticism
Mm-hmm. Kind
because
of, yeah, right.
like, I mean, yes, it provides you that way of like growth and working through hard things, and it feels rewarding once you've kind of nailed down or gotten rid of the criticism. But I'm not, I'm not young in any means. I will turn 40 next year. So, when I started, I was about that 35 age, and there was a lot of conversation when I had started and was suggesting new ideas, right? That's a hard concept for small communities, even small or harder concept for communities of less than 500, I would say.
Mm-hmm. It
Because,
certainly can be a
yeah,
challenge, right? To bring up
yeah,
something that's never been done before or
yeah. And when the narrative got switched to that, I just wanted younger people to be on these boards and committees, like that stung because there's a lot of value in somebody who has worked tirelessly in developing what they thought was a good project. And it's not that I'm saying or that somebody with a different idea is saying, your idea is terrible and it stinks. It's more about like, hey, like I want to take what you created and just help it be a little bit different to attract the group that we're all targeting initially anyway.
Mhm.
Um, and so just sometimes pulling some of those conversations out of context and just knowing that our community is an older populated community and that I value what they have done and the what they have created. So I just don't want that. I don't like that narrative that I want only younger people to be a part of things because that's not true. Like there's so much time and value and education that they had learned too, but also, um, you know, what would it look like too if we were able to open up and work those scenarios together, those community groups. So
Was that feedback handed directly to you, or did you hear
yeah,
about it kind of, was it, you know,
no,
a behind closed doors kind of thing, or did somebody actually bring that to your doorstep and say,
yeah,
hey, this is what I think you're doing?
yep. It started a little bit, hearsay, small town rumor, kind of whatever, and gets you a little fired up, and you're like, whatever. And then I remember like I kind of got over it, and then the person that had been sharing it actually came in and was like, I just feel like you're pushing us out. And I'm like, I don't know. Like what can I do differently to prove to you that I'm not? Like
Mm-hmm.
so
So was that, I mean, I'm honestly really curious about this because I think what we're touching on is this is absolutely an interpersonal skill
mhm.
that we're touching on right now. And it's that ability to listen to critical feedback. And sometimes, let's be honest, it's not delivered with any decency
Right.
or warmth or grace or kindness, or I just want you to know this because I think it'll help you grow. That's not usually
Right.
how this kind of stuff is
Yeah.
handed to us, right? It's in a really ugly package.
hmm
And by ugly, I'm not talking the person. I'm just talking about the entire delivery,
Delivery. Yep.
right? And that's if we're even lucky enough to have it said to us directly,
Right.
right? Oftentimes it's more of a, behind closed doors and just rumor mill kind of thing. So,
Right.
um, but our ability to take it in, not let the emotion that's likely flaring up within us because you're a human,
Right.
not shutting down, not deflecting, not projecting, not criticizing back, not pushing them, all those things. That's real skill. It's real
hmm
skill. So was there any question you remember asking or moment where you felt like you had kind of turned that corner with this person? And what did that really look like?
Um, I
Or
don't.
is the answer no? Because that's a valid answer too,
I mean, I kind of feel like it's a no. It just kind of drifted away, right? And in a way, like it's kind of cycling back with somebody different. But also like being able to recognize that what that cycle looks like now.
Right.
And trying to get ahead of it and just being like, like literally saying like I value what you've done, what you've worked on, what you've created, and I'm not looking to take anything away. These are just different things that maybe get brought to my attention or suggestions that, I'm just providing the feedback there and not deflecting off of like necessarily like what my thoughts and opinions are. Like I just, these are different ways that we could make what you've created just enhanced a little bit more, like so yeah, it'll probably be like one of those never-ending type situations, I think, especially with like rural communities and as they begin to develop and grow is sometimes scary for
Growth is hard. Yeah,
yeah,
growth can be hard for sure.
yeah.
Yep.
So, we say we want it, but are we willing to step into what would be needed to actually make it happen?
Yeah. So thank you for your honesty in that. I wasn't expecting that you had some sort of like magic formula for how you handle these things, because if there were, it wouldn't
Right.
continue to be a factor in public sector work. But unfortunately it just is. So I think that's where the value of a strong network, people that you can rely on. And so is that a lot of what you feel like you have found within the Dakota Resources? Like talk a
Yeah.
little bit more about just kind of what it actually feels like to be supported in the work.
Right. Well, I have like this ongoing joke that ever since I started that I'll call Paula for a Paula pep talk anytime it's needed because
Paula's fantastic. We're talking
she
about Paula
just has,
Jensen,
yes,
our dear friend at Dakota Resources. She's
right.
fantastic. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, kind of looking at the top down, right? Like, if you will, like Joe is one of the most smartest guys ever. Like, I feel like I could bring any obstacle or challenge to him and he would be able to help like navigate you through that, right? And then like Paula with her pep talks and Mike, same level. Mike is just a wealth of knowledge and experience and then Christy, like if you need to celebrate, Christy is your girl because she rocks it. And
Yep.
I just love too that, all of those leaders are from rural communities too. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
somebody not knocking on Sioux Falls, but it's not somebody from Sioux Falls saying you should do this because I grew up in Sioux Falls and this is how it happens. Like that's one of those big obstacles that I did find myself like when I went through like the Leadership South Dakota program is like I just want you to understand like it's also a different level of living in a small community, now living in Sioux Falls, being able to you forget the things that you didn't have, or you know what I mean, that city
Yeah.
living versus the
Yes.
rural living.
Yep.
And um so I can really just appreciate that with like the Dakota Resources coaches is they're in the thick of that, maybe they just have experienced some of those same problems that we face every day. And then when you get into like this community of economic development professionals that are, I will say I think Murdo is probably the smallest community maybe that population wise that is in the network, but it's all relevant because they're all, in that same range or they have the same problems or they want to celebrate the fact that they have an application now for the revolving loan fund or even just being able to say like, hey, I'm trying to figure out what a TIF is and I have no idea because it's over my head. And do I use it in an industrial park or is it in a business district? Like just when you feel like these are like the stupid questions that you're like, I should know this, but I don't. Like those are your people that you can go to because
Mm-hmm.
they just know. Or like, I'm gonna run a pumpkin patch, but I don't know what activities to do. Like, what have you, experienced and whatnot. So I I think those are some of the things that I appreciate the most about Dakota Resources is that it's not a stupid question. So
Yeah. Well, we all need places where we can ask every question without fear of looking stupid, sounding stupid,
yeah,
being stupid, because honestly, again, the economic development, I love that you shared when this position first opened up. You were just like, I don't know what that means. And everyone's like, we don't either.
Right.
Go figure. Actually, nobody really knows exactly what this looks like.
Right.
And that's okay. It's just the hardest. So it's really interesting. The last job I ever had, I was the organizational development director for a large nonprofit. And they had never had that position before. And so they recruited me out of, I was doing contractor work for Dale Carnegie training. And the HR director was in one of my programs. And I remember feeling that exact mix of like excitement and like energy about getting to create a position, but also there's just a lot of chaos. And sometimes there can be some kind of mixed signals because we don't always agree on what we think this person should be doing. And then, there's not any clear metric of success necessarily. And so when you're building all of those things, that's a lot. It's a lot to expect. It's a lot to take on. And I just think I want people to be encouraged by your story, Ashley. Like I want people to, because again, I think this idea that any small community is going to hire somebody that's got 15, 20 years of economic development experience, like good luck. You're not going to find that, and that's even what Justin and I talked about a little bit. I think we all have to open our minds up and maybe our hearts to the fact that this is going to look a little bit different going forward than maybe what it has in the past or what we think it ought to be even.
Right. Yeah. And that's one of those things too, is, I had met with the Aberdeen, their economic development professional, at a Leadership South Dakota alumni event. And I said something along the lines, right? Because sometimes words just come out of my mouth and it is what it is. But I was like, economic development does not look like what Aberdeen does in Murdo. And he was like, I hear that, and there was a little conversation back and forth. And he's like, but Aberdeen economic development doesn't look like what Sioux Falls does either. And it's like that realization that, what, you're right. Like, traditional economic development, what is business retention and expansion, new business, those types of things. And when we're looking at, again, to reference the Dakota Resources blueprint, we have public policy, we have leadership and development, you have housing, you have daycare, you have, like, there's just all this, like, our communities cannot thrive if we don't start at the bottom and work our way up to these new businesses. And that maybe also has been one of those conversations that the community has really had to listen to, and want to understand in order for them to understand, if that makes sense. Because we were recipients of the GOED child care grant funding that happened last year. And they're like, well, why are you working on daycare? And I was like, because if we don't have daycare, if we don't have childcare, if we don't have an after school program, like our parents aren't able to work till 5 or leave the house at all, or, like we have to be able to have these solutions to boost our economic growth. Like it doesn't like, oh, hey, we're going to have this industry of 50 people move to town and we have 2 houses open. Like
Exactly.
So it's kind of like that's been maybe one of the other rewarding aspects of being in this position and kind of introducing economic development to our community is, well, why can't we have a manufacturing company that brings 100 people in? Like, that's the answer. And I was like, cool. In order to get there, we have to have 10 steps.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's this is why for me, I just think there's honestly, there's few people that have to take on as wide and varied a set of topics as a person doing rural economic development.
Right.
Like it really is, like, of all the jobs a person could have, your ability to navigate that, it's really challenging. And we have really no choice but to recognize that we probably feel most comfortable in certain aspects of the work, whether it's our natural innate skill sets or our experience that we bring to the table, or in your case, some of your formal education, those things. And then everything else we have to partner We have to collaborate. And that's a whole conversation that sometimes has to be navigated locally too, right? That it's not that we don't have even maybe some of the talent, but if we don't, talent and capacity are different things.
Right.
And so what does it look like to hire or to partner with an outside entity? And there's air quotes around that, right? Or firm. And how do we welcome them in to this conversation and not treat them like outsiders? All of that work happens in your office.
Right.
And then you have to, try and it's not even selling people, but there's a lot of education that comes with this role, especially if it was something that had never been done before.
Right.
So it's a lot. You've taken on a lot, Ashley, and you've done it very well. This feeling like I'm not doing enough or I'm not doing it right. I mean, I don't hear that like really clearly coming through in the way you're speaking, but you've done really good work.
Thanks.
And it's fun. And I need to come and visit Murdo now. Like you've made your trek to me. So it's on me now to come and make my trek to you. So, I do want to ask though, so you actually bought this building. What, do you want to dream out loud for a second? Like, what are we doing with it? What's the thought? What do you think you want to see happen with it? So not a restaurant now, but.
Nope. Even though, I mean, maybe my whole community will listen to this and get it that I am not doing a restaurant. No.
Are people asking if you will?
Oh yeah, they're like,
sure.
Well, because there's this 4x6 pizza oven in the back, and there would be nothing I would like better than for somebody to sling pizzas, but it is not this girl.
I was gonna say, as somebody that is not Ashley Geigle, like we're not doing this. No, thank you.
Right. Yeah. So the fun facts about this building is that it had been empty for 12 years, and the roof is caving or falling in the back. There's a hole. We were working on it last month. Right, because that's the other thing too, right? We can only work on it when we can. We have 4 children. They are all in sports. We have our own lives.
So busy. Yep, so busy.
But it was just like he had up and left. Like he was open one day and gone the next. So I could probably really tell you if I wanted to go back and figure out the exact story of what happened because again, small town is what it is. But I was in college at the time when he had closed up shop and everything. So he, there's dishes still coming out of the dishwasher. Tables were set. Like it was just up and left. So there's a lot. There's, salt. You think about a building that's been sitting there for 12 years and there's salt packets and there's paper everywhere and then there's mice and then there's critters and then there's all the things. So it has been a process, but I do have this vision and even more excitedly, like my husband's on board with this vision, which is half of the trouble sometimes, right? That I would have, I just feel personally that an economic development office should be on Main Street and you should have that view of a window of Main Street so that you can continue that vision. And our Main Street has struggled in the past 15-ish years, right? We're kind of becoming, Murdo's unique because we have 5th Street, which was the old highway where all of the restaurants and the motels went to before the interstate was built for obvious reasons, right? Because that's going to be your attraction. So everything is basically along 5th Street, and our Main Street has kind of became, the first half is maybe more housing, and the second half is more of our utilities, the water, the electric co-op, the bank, just these bigger things. And we don't have like that small town charming Main Street. And I am like, oh, ever since I took the position, I said that was my goal, was to get Main Street back into a place to be.
And connect, right? Like
yes,
the actual community could happen there, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. So, I mean, what better way to do it than buy a building and make something of it? So in the front, my office, and then I would love this area to just be like an open space, very much like the Growing Small Town studio, but just on like a miniature scale.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it might be a traveler needing to come in and just sit and have office calls that day, or our work from home individuals being able to come in and have a space where they can be together but do their work, or community meetings. Like I don't just kind of just the space that's just open. But in the back, I also am very into holistic wellness. And so in the back, I talked my husband into agreeing to let me have a salt cave.
This is why I had to ask, because I knew this. Like, we've talked about
Right.
this. And I'm like, you get that salt cave in there. I will drive to Murdo and I will
Right.
sit in the salt cave with you. I love this so much because, again, Ashley, this is one of those things like that shouldn't make sense to anybody. Like,
Right.
it shouldn't, and it doesn't have to, right? And it still can and likely. And I mean, you do this, people will come and sit in your salt
Right.
cave with you. And I don't know if that's the plan, is to like make it an actual business, or if it's just like, this is my personal use salt cave.
Right.
Please step out of the premises. I don't know what your plan is. But I love that. I love
Right.
that. That's, to me, that's what makes a community have character. It's what makes communities feel like home. Like, you'll love Murdo more. You'll
Right.
love it more if you put in a salt cave. So this is just, it's like my favorite
Right.
little random tidbit about what
I
you want to
know.
do with your building. It's so fun.
Right. And of course, like the area that it goes in, because I've learned a lot, you have to have like a specific salt filtration system, ventilator that goes from outside air. So like that's the part of the building that will need to be rebuilt, and everything. So that I keep telling my husband, I was like, in a year, like maybe in a year, we spent, I don't know, 5 hours last month up there just cleaning out the garbage and emptying and doing all that nasty work. And now it's just figuring out what to do with like all this equipment and dishes and this, that, and the other, which honestly, you just get after it and it won't be hard. But I was like, if we get all that done and then we can analyze the foundation, right? So like 1 month we're finishing cleaning up, the next month we're going to look at the foundation, and then we can start construction. And he was like, something like that. So I don't know.
Can I ask how old is your youngest child?
6.
Okay. So this is actually just, I think it's beautiful. So my youngest was 4 when I took this on, which was still a little young, I'll be honest. Like, but I think you're also going to be, demonstrating a process that other people can possibly follow. And I'm not saying also, like, you don't have to be this, like, you don't have to be like a beacon of hope for everybody in Murdo. Right. I don't even mean that exactly, but I think there are a lot of people listening to this that listen to our show that want and have a dream of buying a building, just like we're talking about, right? My building, the back bathroom, the day that I bought it, it had caved in. The ceiling had caved in because the roof was leaking so bad. That it feels like you have that moment where you're looking at it and you're like, there's no way we're ever going to figure this out. I had so many days where I was like, there is no way this is ever going to actually happen. And now I'm sitting in a studio in the space, talking about your visit to it. You know what I mean? There's just, so like the way you're thinking about this, I think is perfect. It's literally like, take every month and just say, what's one thing we want to get accomplished in this thing? Right. And you can take as much time as you need, you know. Yeah. That's hard for people in community because they want to see things happen really fast. And sometimes it's not fast. And right. That's okay too. I think continuing to move it forward is the ticket.
Yeah.
So that you don't totally lose all your kind of momentum, energy, and enthusiasm.
We hope you loved this episode of the Growing Small Town Show. We encourage you to leave us messages at 701-203-3337.
When we got it, when we finally had it in our name
to our newsletter
last year, it was right around like that Thanksgiving, Christmas time. And I told Seth, I was like, I'm going to go put
with what you have right
garland and
your
battery operated lights out on the windows because that will make me happy. And he was like, we don't even know
because
if we
we are growing.
Like, they're gonna be battery operated and I'll only do it at certain times, and so we did. And people were like, okay. And then after Christmas, it comes down and
we're right here living our best lives as crazy as
so now they know that something's going on, whether they knew I bought the building or they didn't, like, they know that there's something going on. So this homecoming,
small towns, we are growing small towns.
Right now, and Hobby Lobby, they have these cute little orange bows, and our colors are blue and orange. And so I went up and I put this bow garland around the door frame of the building. And there's a a guy that's from here but goes to California in the winter and comes back in the summer. And I ran into him at the post office and he's like, who owns that building and why is there bows on it? And I was like, it's me. I'm like, it's me. And I put bows on it because I'm so excited and I just can't wait for it to actually be like a storefront that I can be really proud of. And he was like, oh, like, after you are able to like kind of tell them like your thought process and your story behind it, he was like, I'm so excited for you. Like, I wish you all the best. You know what I mean? And so, I, and even he said, he was like, it will be nice. Like, we are grateful for our businesses that are on Main Street, right? But he's like, it'll be nice to have a little bit of that small town charm come shine through with what you're projecting. And I was like, I agree. Like, I'm excited. So,
I don't want us to gloss over any of what you just shared in the story because beauty, even if it seems, you said lipstick on a pig, like even if it feels that way, little additional touches of beauty, it actually demonstrates care.
Right.
And that's how we slowly get better. Like things slowly can get better. Just improving one little corner, one little piece, making one little thing a little more beautiful. Every little bit of that actually matters. And I love too, by the way, that your real motivation was because you love it.
Right.
That's how it should be.
Yeah.
That's how this should be to me. Mm-hmm. So Ashley, I just think you're such a good human.
Oh, thank you.
I do. I'm so grateful that Dakota Resources brought us together. I was so grateful for your visit up here. It means so much to me because I literally tell every audience everywhere, like, come and see me. Come and see me in Oaks. I would love to show off our Main Street. You and I had a beautiful little walk up and down our Main Street. We've got a fantastic Main Street. What you want in Murdo, we have in my community. And I just think too, that's something we all need to be willing to share and talk through, like, what's working, what's not working, how do our storefronts look like this? What is it? What is it about our community? Because we are all in this together.
Right.
And North Dakota and South Dakota are way too close together for us not to be buddies. So
right.
Besties, right. I am proud to know you. And Murdo is very lucky to have you.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah. And thank you for coming on the show, friends. It was really fun to chat through your journey. You're doing great things.
Thank you. It was a dream come true. Honestly, I remember listening to the first episode and I was like, I'll make it when I'm on that podcast. So.
Done. Check, and check, baby.
I'm not sure I've made it yet, but I'm on the podcast. So
you are. Thanks for coming, Ashley. We'll have you back soon.
All right. Thanks.